you're not going to drink as much. Oh, guess it's the same thing, isn't it? It's all about controlling your consumption, no matter what it is. Do you think Medea is funny? I almost fell out of my chair laughing when I first read this, but then realized that this is serious stuff. This is from Hot Air. McCain, Senator McCain.
Yes, that's right. I said it. I said this, and I meant it. Let's face it, Trump's rhetoric is turning Muslims all over the world against us. I'm telling you, we can't elect this guy president. I'm telling you, we're going to be hated. Everybody loves Obama, but nobody loves Trump.
That's what McCain said. Let's face it, Trump's rhetoric is turning Muslims all over the world against us. Hey, Senator McCain, are you saying then, sir, that the reason why Muslims hate us today, and the reasons why Muslims hated us back in 2001, and the reasons why Muslims hated us back in 1994 when they first bombed the World Trade Centers, and when they hated us back in the 80s under Reagan, was simply because of Donald J. Trump? Oh, hell's bells. I guess all we need to do is just turn over Trump to the Muslims, and all's right with the world, right? Where did this guy how old is McCain? I hate this. Maybe he's becoming senile. Has he forgotten? Oh, yeah, well, I'm not even, if you want to read what this blithering idiot had to say, it's over on Hot Air. I'll post links to it. McCain says, let's face it, Trump's rhetoric is turning Muslims all over the world against us. And, it's funny, but unfortunately it's really some serious stuff. Meanwhile, Denmark, something is rotten in Denmark. There's a vote in Denmark. The title is, and this is from Yahoo.com, Yahoo News, Jihadism and Migration in Focus as Denmark votes on EU opt-out. Eurosceptic Denmark, I don't know, Eurosceptic? I'm not exactly sure what they're meaning by that, but goes to the polls on Thursday of this week in a referendum on stepping up its participation in EU police and judicial cooperation, with the outcome uncertain amid fears ranging from jihadist attacks to the migrant crisis. They're calling them migrants. They're not migrants. They're invaders and refugees. They're not migrants. Held 3 weeks after the Paris attacks that left 130 people dead, the referendum was originally scheduled to take place in 2016, but was moved up so it wouldn't interfere with the campaign for Britain's EU referendum due to be held before 2017. A majority of left and right-wing parties in the Danish parliament approved the principle of a referendum in 2014, despite the opposition of the Eurosceptic anti-immigration Danish People's Party. The party, which emerged as the country's second biggest back in June legislative elections, has held significant sway over Danish politics for more than a dozen years, providing right-wing minority governments with support to pass legislation in parliament in exchange for its tighter immigration policies. There are some DPP, which is the Danish People's Party, campaign posters that say, "More EU? No thanks." This whole European Union is it's hanging by a thread. I mean, you got England that opted out of dumping their pound for the euro. They opted out. They kept their own currency, but they're still in the EU. And for those of you in Rush Limbaugh's Rio Linda, EU stands for European Union. Think of it as the United States of Europe. There's a lot of things about the EU that Great Britain has opted out of. Now you're looking at the Danes are thinking about opting out of some of this EU stuff, and the Swedes want to opt out of some of the EU stuff, and it looks like the French might be a little bit upset about being so heavily invested in the EU. And you could just think of the EU as basically being they say the UN is manipulated by the United States, which is a crock. The EU is manipulated pretty much by Germany. It really is. Germany has tremendous sway and say in the EU. By the way, the Joint Chiefs, the Chief Joint Chiefer, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, says that we have not contained ISIS. And this is from thehill.com. Wait a minute. A couple of weeks ago, didn't we have the president saying ISIS is contained? No, wait, I'm sorry. He said ISIL. ISIL. They always talk about ISIL. But the chairman of the Joint Chiefs says the U.S. has not contained the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. ISIS. That's what the top military officer said earlier today, contradicting President Obama's remarks last month about the terror group. Well, it's not really I'm looking at this picture, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, you want to talk about a real man. Here's a real man in his uniform, impeccably well-groomed, like military men usually are. His 4 stars, everything, his medals, that kind of stuff. And then right behind him in this picture, which is a still of the video, is a guy with a long. He's not a Muslim. He's a white guy with a long beard. It doesn't look to be that well. I mean, it's not uncouth, but it's not very well kept. And he has what appears to be a man bun. I'm just going to say this once. Guys in man buns, no. No, and no. How many times no do you got to hear about no man bun? A real man doesn't have a man bun. Well, a real man wouldn't worry about it. He'd be self-assured in his own sexuality. Well, see, that's what people who are not really self-assured in their own sexuality say. I find it quite interesting that you have these young men who run around saying, "I'm secure in my own sexuality." And when you talk to them, you're not sure if they're gay or straight or bi or inquisitive or what have you. And they're very open to trying new things. Go to any college campus and just talk to some of the guys there. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's kind of scary, actually. I don't know. Maybe no man buns. By the way, speaking of white males with man buns, this is a Washington Post story. Young white people are losing their faith in the American dream. You're probably thinking, what? It's about as hard for a 20-something worker to find a job today as it was in 1986. The economy is growing at a slightly slower pace, but not by much, and yet young workers today are significantly more pessimistic about the possibilities of success in America than their counterparts were in 86. Why? Because We don't have any real net growth in this country. We still have 94 million Americans who are out of the workforce. We did not have that number out of the workforce or any equivalent percentage equivalent in 1986. There were jobs galore in 86. The economy started to boom in 86. We're not experiencing any kind of boom right now. We're not. No, we're not. That's why they might be a little bit pessimistic because they're out. Well, plus they're spending all this huge amount of money on these stupid, idiotic degrees that mean absolutely nothing. They're worthless. Now, according to a new Fusion 2016 issues poll reported in conjunction with the Washington Post, a shift that appears to reflect lingering damage from the Great Recession and more than a decade of wage stagnation for typical workers. The Great Recession. The Washington Post labeled it. They're not exactly a conservative ragmag. They're calling it the Great. That's the first time I've seen a lamestream media outlet use that term. I'm not saying that they haven't used it before, but obviously they're not using it in great numbers. The Great Recession. So in other words, they're saying we're still in it. We haven't gotten out of it. Well, if you look at the actual, real, unadulterated, non-manipulated numbers, you would have to agree. All you Obama supporters, if you actually use the numbers that they used to use, the formulations that they used to use back in the 70s and 80s and even 90s, you would have to say by those metrics, we're still in a recession. We didn't get out of it. You can't say that you're growing jobs by 200,000 per month when you're still down some 2 million jobs net than what you had 8 years ago. You can't say that you're getting out of the recession, that you're growing an economy, and say that your unemployment rate is at 5% when you have nearly 95 million Americans who are out of the labor force, and you have the lowest job participation rate since in about 50 or 60 years. And it wasn't this bad under when Reagan took over from Carter. You're talking about Depression era numbers here. So no, there is no job growth, and thus the reason for no wage growth. And the only reason why we're still afloat is because we have the Fed who's printing money faster and faster and faster and keeping rates artificially low. And now there's even evidence that, Democrats are trying to talk the Fed into keep from raising rates too soon and wait until possibly after the election of 2016. It's real evil stuff. Well, we're out of time for today, but we'll be back tomorrow with a new Christmas song as well. Plus, I'll have some announcements later on in the week about what I'm doing. Until then, have a wonderful evening. I'm Rod Eccles. You've been listening to The Rod Eccles Show. I'm out.